Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniature. It's time for some more Blokees model kits. Now, we're not talking about regular Blokees. Regular Blokees are more like, kind of buildable, blind boxed action figures, of which I have one of their Hero Spire fantasy models, or like Kamen Rider, or heck, even like Saint Seiya in front of us. I've got, what's his name, Capricorn Shura sitting right here, which is a totally different, unrelated thing. But today, no, we're going to actually look at Leo Aiolia. Now, I'm used to seeing the red-headed version of him. I remember picking up Episode G when that was an ongoing thing. Heck, I used to have, and I don't know where they are, I should still have them somewhere, a bunch of volumes of that in French that my family picked up. I think my brother Percival Sparkletrout might have grabbed them when he was going to school over there. I'll have to ask him now that I mentioned that. Anyway, yeah, always really liked Leo. So obviously the fact that I finally found these larger actual model kit figures, of course he's going to be the first one I pick up. Plus also they just didn't have Libra. So as you can see on the back, look, real models. You do have a couple of different options for the heads, of course. You have the option, even though it's kind of hard for me to get it at a good angle, to have the helmet in the hand, as always, so he can stand there dramatically with his hair billowing majestically in the wind, like any good gold saint would do. Let's see what we have to look forward to in the box. Okay, first off, nice solid looking base. Interesting that we have pre-painted hands. That's a nice touch. So we've got the gold paint on the flesh-colored sprue there. The blind box ones you can see are just straight gold. Looks like we have, oh yay, a sanctuary base topper to go on top of the base. Interestingly enough, in the past, oftentimes the Blokees model kits use some kind of proprietary Lego Technic style pieces to build with. Not the case here. Of course, I don't think we hit them with Soundwave either. Few of those type pieces here you can see, but still it looks like traditional model stuff we're going to be building. Not on the sprue though. Lots of gold pieces. Printed faces look nice. Very anime-esque. Hair, more armor. I want to see if they have any illustrations. No! Where's the Chromata art? Almost looks like it. I'm like, at least there's some. It's funny to me that Seiya never seems to have got the recognition in the States, in the United States, that it seems to hold worldwide. I can remember as a teenager, I don't even know, maybe I was like 13, 14, 15, watching Los Caballeros del Zodiaco on Univision or something, like on one of the UHF Spanish channels, just because I was like so desperately looking for anime to watch when it didn't exist online, because online didn't really exist if we're talking when I was 13, 14, 15. So I remember watching some of this, and I mean, yeah, my Spanish may be awful, but it's not like you need a ton of language understanding or ability in any language to really get, I mean, obviously to get the real intricacies of Seiya, but I mean, I feel like it was best summed up in a G Gundam with Domon talking about the fact that, men, despite whatever their languages are, can always communicate with their fists. And I feel like that's something that has always kind of made Seiya very universal in that regard. So it looks like a pretty straightforward kit. And having built a variety of the Blokees models at this point, I feel pretty comfortable and confident in building it. Doesn't look like it's going to take me more than maybe an afternoon. I do like that they have all of the parts broken down, much like a Lego set, for their kind of unique proprietary stuff. Good to see. Looks like most of the transparent stuff is going to be for the stand itself. So, nice to find that, and I am eager to see how this is going to turn out and how big it is in comparison to some of the other Blokees kits that we've got. And I thought somewhere I've got one of the DX Chinese figures, which maybe I need to put a video on this guy. These are pretty large model kits that they've made, obviously, with a bit more of an SD proportion. I'll have to do a video on that another time. But anyways, let's get Leo all put together, and let's see if I can fight the temptation to paint his hair red so he looks more like the version in episode sheet. But I don't think that was the same guy anyway. So anyways, stop rambling. Let's start building. Sit tight. So Leo is all put together here. You can see I've got him with his base, only because he doesn't really want to stand all that well on his own. Now, it's not like he can't, he just doesn't want to. Now, I realize I've got the calm face when I should have put the hot-blooded face with the, you know, what was it, the Thunderbolt? I think that's what he used. Anyway, we put the more impulsive yelling face with the no mask version. I gotta say, in terms of posability, pretty nice. I feel like the legs are a little easily knocked out of position, which is probably why the stand is included. I do like, as I said, the Sanctuary base is a nice little touch. You've got the logo right there for the series. Unfortunately, the stand itself doesn't do the best job of actually keeping the poses. It tends to want to flop over. It doesn't kind of lock in the joints, which is a bit of a shame. Now, like the other Saint Seiya Blokees that we've seen so far, there's not a whole ton of accessories, but I mean, I didn't expect any either, so I'm not really, you know, disappointed in that regard. This line of figures kind of occupies its own weird little corner of the Blokees collection at this point. I do appreciate the fact also that, you know, the armor itself has a lot of parts to it. Obviously, you can't break it down into its cloth form, but that's not the end of the world. So grabbing other Blokees models that we've got handy, Soundwave here, as you can see, does tend to have a bit more oomph to him in regards to size. My Xiaoyu in the larger scale Hero Spire figures here. A little bit smaller, a little less stable, and lacking a stand. Grabbing Leo's brother here, Sagittarius Aiolis, with baby Athena. I thought was kind of a cool touch. Yet again, smaller, more kind of stylized with the Lego style parts. He also doesn't want to stand up on his own with the cloth attached to his back. Obviously, Sagittarius, of course. If you know your Saint Seiya lore, you would know, understandably, I'm sure why. So he carries baby Athena there. Brother Gold Saint, pretty much in scale with each other. If none of these scales make any sense to you, grabbing a typical Gundam. So a little bit bigger than a 1/144th. And honestly, about the same price. So that's an interesting touch. I can't knock Blokees when it comes to the pricing of their figures, whether you're buying them from China or from distributors wherever you may live. I feel like that's one thing they have done really right, is price them competitively. I also appreciate the fact that I can touch all these gold pieces and I don't see fingerprints everywhere. One thing I wasn't a big fan of are these clip-on armor pieces for the forearms, and I believe there's some on the legs, but at least the leg ones stay a little bit more stable. I feel like it would have just made more sense to have a slot and key those parts on the arms in. I think the only other accessories besides his Thunderbolt here attack would be the various hands that he's got. I want to say there's just a generic open and a generic closed, but I do appreciate the fact that we've got them painted, and then we have the outer layer of the glove as a separate piece that attaches onto there. Of interest also is, yank them off, the attachment method for the shoulder pads. It's on a bit of a swivel ball joint, so you can pose them up and not have to worry about it too much. If we show the back side, they are a little thin but, you know, they are waif-like beautiful boys half the time in the Seiya-verse, so that's not all that surprising. Overall, I gotta say it's a fun little kit. It didn't take me too long. Certainly a lot less time than Soundwave. A little bit more than the Galaxy-sized, more DX ones. Well, there's only the one size so far for the Seiya blind box, of which I do believe Series 2 is out now. Because I feel like Shiryu was included in that and he wasn't in the first set. So, something to keep an eye on there. Me, personally, waiting for a Saga figure. Or something like the Celestial God cloths. Maybe we'll get to that point. Considering how many various lines of Transformers we've seen from Blokees, I'm not too worried about that. We probably will. Also considering how many different Kamen Rider sets they've done, as well as Ultraman. Well, you get the picture. They've done a lot, and with the upcoming, you know, Star Wars and Jurassic Park sets, there's a lot to be looking forward to with these figures, and I gotta say, they just keep pumping out new ones. I was gonna grab a bunch of Ultraman ones, but it looks like my kid stole them all from me, so, oh well. Guess that's a good time to stop then. So, with that said, all in all, a great kit. This has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye!